You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Pekka's there on the backhand, scoring the save, rebound in the crease, they score!
Hosted by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the T-Birds in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney. And this episode number 17 of Season 2 of the Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in downtown Springfield and in Amherst, by our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street in Agawam, and by our friends at Landscaping That Fitz. Alongside Matt Baker, I am Steve Forney. Matt, how are you, my friend?
Doing well. It was a busy weekend, so I am tired here Monday night, but doing well. How about you guys?
Right back at the grind, man.
Yeah,
vacation is so close.
Yeah,
February vacation for teachers and students. Can't wait.
3 weeks.
Well, we had a pretty nice little weekend here, as you've been talking about, Matt. This 9-game stretch against teams that are in our division, 6-2-1 out of that stretch. Initial thoughts, takeaways on what you saw this weekend and during that stretch.
So all right, let me start big and then work my way small. So over the 9 games, we talked about this 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. This was an important stretch for this team to see where they're at. You really, there are teams you had to climb over, and you're playing them. So I pulled a number out of the air. I said, let's get 12 points. And we got 13 out of these 9. So I like what we saw. We talked about sort of the frustrations over these 9 games, or really over the season, has been the inconsistency. But this weekend, I thought we saw consistent play. I know us, are going to talk about the second periods, but it is hockey, and that's why you play 3, not just whoever wins the first period. Adjustments are made in locker rooms. Players see how you adapt to them, and they counterpunch, and then you play a third period. So yes, I will concede this weekend against Boston, against Providence, against the Wolfpack Sunday. Second periods maybe didn't look their sharpest, but they played consistent, in my opinion. And it wasn't just a total loss of focus in the second periods. I think you saw teams settle in, you saw teams counterpunch, and then Thunderbirds right back at you, counterpunch. And, that second period in Providence, or against Providence in Springfield, was fantastic, in my opinion, as far as just entertainment wise. That's what you want. You're up 1-0. You give up 2 goals or whatever it was going into the second, right? But you're down 2. You get 2 goals in a matter of 30 seconds. Steve, I texted you. We're watching Saturday on the couch, and we hear you on Flow on AHL TV. We hear you, and you're making the announcement of the first T-Bird goal, and then boom, here's Matt Luff with that goal. And I texted you, and that really was like Sports Center top 10 play. Pekka against the boards, gets it down low. McEachran kind of dips his shoulder like he's about to take it around the net, wrap around. He goes between his legs, totally fooled Bussy. And you can't blame him. I mean, Bussy's putting himself in position to make a save on a wrap. And Matt Luff is just there to kind of, nobody covered him. The defense lost sight of him. And that was probably the easiest goal he's ever scored. What a beautiful, beautiful play that was. So, I think it's easy. And I do this. you just look at a box score and say, we gave up X amount of goals in this period or that period. And it all matters. But I do think this weekend, 3-3, we played pretty consistent. So over 9 games, love it. You got 13 points. You leapfrogged Hartford in the standings. You're now separating a little bit from Hartford in the standings. So you're kind of in that 6th spot. If Thunderbirds can continue to stay away from losing streaks, I think they'll be okay. And if they continue to beat the teams ahead of them, just keep leapfrogging. But I think consistent play this weekend in the 3-3, I think was there.
Totally, from beginning to end. And I do want to highlight some stuff in that Lehigh Valley game. But it is funny. I fired up this computer and it went directly to what it was last time I fired it up, the standings.
Yeah.
And you were in 7th place, 7 points back of Lehigh Valley. You are now in 6th place and 4 points behind them with 3 games in hand.
That's it.
You got ahead of Hartford. You're chasing Lehigh Valley. There were a lot of games between the Atlantic and North divisions over the weekend. Most of them did not go our way. You're watching, like, for instance, Hershey Utica, and you're like, let's go Utica. And of course, it doesn't work out that way, but it is what it is. You got to take care of your own business. And I thought that's exactly what they did. The big thing for me was the health. And, I'm sort of eating my hat because last week I said, I don't know about the playoffs because I don't know when we're ever going to get healthy. We never hear about any of these guys. When are we going to get healthy? And then boom, Alexandrov in, Dean in, Bushinger back. So that to me was the biggest thing looking at what the roster looked like. I mean, Dylan Peterson got a little banged up and he was scratched on Sunday. And they actually now have the luxury, right, to say, well, you know what? You're a little banged up. Why don't you take Sunday's game off?
Right.
Because we have these other guys ready to go. Drew Callan, a little banged up. Let's take Sunday off. That is something they haven't had at all. Go ahead.
100%. And we'll get into the game, but real quick, our 4 centers for Sunday's game, you went Pekka line 1, Dvorsky line 2, McGing line 3, Zach Dean line 4.
It's awesome. And I don't think Dean is long for the 4th line. But,
right.
When you're working a guy back in from injury, you want to limit his minutes a little bit and certainly test the waters. But yeah, I mean, this is sort of what we've been talking about for weeks now. It's like, what would this look like if everyone's healthy? And I'll tell you what, it looked fast, organized, skilled. Still didn't lose any toughness, I don't think.
Right.
Didn't get pushed around by anybody.
Yep.
And this team looked like a pain to play against.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened mostly in that Lehigh Valley game was that they were just dogs on meat the entire game. And Lehigh Valley is bigger. They're more physical, but they're also slower. And sometimes the best way to beat those physical teams isn't necessarily to out physical them. No, you just you play keep away and you are on them when they have the puck. And that's exactly what happened. So I have to be honest. The game yesterday, the Hartford game, I was sitting front row, didn't watch much of it. It was the kids takeover game. So I had junior PA announcers and I spent a lot of time sort of explaining to them what was going on and organizing thing. And then boom, a goal scored. And I'm like, it's 30 seconds in. Nikita Alexandrov's already scored a goal. It's like, I had no idea what that goal looked like. Didn't get to see it at all.
That fantastic. The first 2 goals were just beauties, redirections. And look, we've been talking about this for a while and shots from the point, and not all of them are going to make their way to be like an actual a shot attempt. Yes, but a shot on goal, they might not make it. But, I'll take my chances if you have a presence in front of the net. Kessel's goal is that considered a power play goal? The 6-on-5?
No.
So
it's not considered a power play, but it's it looked good. It was organized. I mean,
they
set up in the zone.
They had it fully set up. They taken time off the clock. So worst case scenario, they touch it up, but they're still a little tired there. But you're right. That Nikita Alexandrov goal was great, and it was good to get him kind of going early. If I can, and we're all over the place right now, huh?
That's fine. Let's do it.
Let's go back real quick to the Lehigh Valley game, which I actually, my kids had a basketball game, so I didn't get a chance to watch it live. And then Flow Hockey, for some reason, wasn't allowing me to replay it Saturday morning, which is when I had time penciled out to watch it with the first two periods. I thought from an important, like which game was most important, the way they won that game to me was very important. I think of all the teams, with the exception of Hershey, right? Let's go down. Hershey, we know we can hang with Hershey. Haven't been able to win yet, but we know we can hang with them. Checkers, it's been back and forth, but we know we can beat them down in Charlotte. We know we can handle them here at home. Boston, we've played Providence, we've played really strong this year. The Wolfpack, we've been beating up. Bridgeport, it's up and down, but it's Bridgeport. I've felt like Lehigh Valley, again, with the exception of Hershey, has given the Thunderbirds the toughest challenge. Physicality, size-wise.
For sure.
And they've beaten Lehigh Valley, but it was tough. It was tough. So we talk about that mental hurdle, against a Bridgeport. I feel like this cleared that mental hurdle. Wilkes-Barre as well. Like I don't really think we can check off like, yeah, we've beaten them yet this year, as far as just kind of controlling the game and dominating play. I think this, though, against Lehigh Valley was a great win. A win is a win, 5-1 or 2-1 or 1-0, whatever it is, right? Still worth 2 points in the standings, but from a mental standpoint, being able to dictate play, dominate play, do what you want in their arena, I think was big. So, now as we're checking off all these teams in the division, teams that we're going to play a lot more as the season ends down and these games grow in importance, knowing in the back of your mind, we've done it before, we can do it again, I think is helpful. So that Lehigh Valley, for me, that game, win, 2 points. Mentally, we know we can do it, right? So I think that was big.
Well, I'm glad that was the game that you didn't catch much of, because that's the game I caught every second of. That was the only game I caught every second of. And
yeah,
you get up early 1-0, they come back, tie at 1-1, you get a power play 4 minutes later, boom, power play goal. And we've talked about the importance of timely power play goals. That power play goal in the Hartford game Sunday was timely, ended up being a game winner. But when you're up 2-1 in the first period, second period rolls around, it ends, you're up 5-1.
Right.
That is how you dominate. That's how you take a team mentally out of it. And that's exactly what they did. So I actually wrote down some notes, and I'm just going to fly through these quick.
Yep.
Anybody who watched that game, I typed all these out on my phone in real time. Thunderbirds D was suffocating. They were dogs on meat, 2 to 3 guys on every Lehigh Valley player along the perimeter, including the forwards. They look like the Edmonton Oilers in the O-zone is what I wrote. Passing is spot on. Positioning is perfect, but Lehigh Valley D is constantly 2 strides behind. That was after the first period. Middle of the second period, I wrote, woof. Talk about leaving this goalie out to dry. Lehigh Valley D has been putrid in the second. 5-1 Birds. Skinner fight. Jeff Skinner. Oh, my goodness. Hunter Skinner basically ragdolled Gaucher, who's one of their goal scorers, not a fighter, baits him into a fight, and then absolutely pummels the guy. Talk about again, like, in putting yourself on top of the other team. You push him around, you just ragdoll him to the ground. Guy got up, got mad, and then got his face rearranged. Just dominated the minute. Backbreaking sequence to Lehigh Valley. This goes to Vincent Carroll, who asked the question. I put to Carroll. Lehigh Valley crowd sounded quiet all game long. Maybe it was an NHL Network thing or because they were getting smoked, but quiet either way. Third period, Lehigh Valley has a 2-on-1, set it up perfectly, and then missed the net completely. Sound familiar? Haven't seen much of this team, but this is the worst I've seen them. So, did Lehigh Valley play terribly? Yeah, they did. But did they play terribly or look terrible because they had a bad night or because the Thunderbirds kind of made them? You move that puck, you get their players out of position. That's how that's how you're going to take over games. Last note I had here, broadcast on NHL Network is glorious. Perfect. Everything I hoped Flow Hockey would be. Side note, cable rules, and I'll never buy into the streaming stuff. Also, both broadcasters are named Steve. It appears to me as though Lehigh Valley kind of has their own TV network.
Mm-hmm.
So the NHL Network basically took their feed, and that I think is where the biggest difference is. The teams that have their own broadcast feed, because you had 4 or 5 different camera angles. Every single whistle, you weren't watching crowd shots. You were watching replays of stuff. It looked as NHL of a broadcast as you could possibly do it. And as a broadcast, again, I teach broadcasting. It was a dream. I wanted to go back and watch it all over again, but I had a DVR'd and excellent. So I will give props to Lehigh Valley for their broadcasting, everything that they put into it. It was gorgeous. So well done. And I wish every game looked like that. But yeah, Lehigh Valley didn't play their best, but Springfield was just absolutely all over them for 60 full complete minutes. It was great.
The only, and I'm glad you phrase it that way, right? And we never know. We know all teams go through their ups and downs. We lose to Hartford 7-0 on New Year's Eve, and really haven't looked back almost since against Hartford. We know that's a team we could be. We had a bad night. Any team can have a bad night, but I will say, I do think, look, both teams, it's a Friday night. You're not coming. It's not your third leg of a 3-3. The other team is fresh, right? Both teams were fresh. It was a Friday night game. And again, not being able to see the beginning of the game, I only caught the tail end of it. Most of the scoring was already done. No team goes into it. They didn't have a lot of call up. Like, that was their team. So I think when you look at that, the team, Lehigh Valley, sure, there are going to be things they clean up next time, and expect a dogfight the next time Lehigh Valley and Springfield drop the puck. But there's going to be that thought in the back of their mind from a Thunderbird standpoint of, we've done it before. We can do it again.
Totally.
This is the formula that's going to get them to play their bad game.
Right.
This is what we need to do. And I think if they can hone in on that as they're getting healthy, of this is what we need to do to beat these teams, the message has been sent.
Totally. And I'm interested to see these two teams again. I want to see what it looks like again.
They're fun. We've talked about it, right, with the fan rants. Like, these games, those are physical games, and they're usually the more physical games of a weekend when you're playing Lehigh Valley. So I am looking forward to that.
And the Bolton kid tried to bait Sam Bitten in the third period into a fight, and Sam's like, no, like, I'm up 5-1. Why am I fighting you?
Yeah.
Which it was great. I mean, I love to see that from Sam. Heading to Providence, again, you talked about the importance of points. I loved how they were able to drag Providence to 2 overtime to a shootout. I think Providence had some pep in their step. I mean, they were flying in that game, and Springfield hung with them. They hung around. I mean, like Merkelov and Lysell, I have no idea why these two guys, as a Bruins fan, I have no idea why they're down here.
Yeah.
Why aren't they in Boston? Instead, you're playing these slow, lumbering schlubs when you have Merkelov flying around down here in Providence. His shootout winner was good, although I thought it was kind of cheap. I think that was the one where he basically stopped in front of.
We'll talk about that at Fan Rant during Fan Rants, because a fan brought that up.
Yeah, I didn't like that, but I mean, look, you hung with him, and you didn't get badly outshot. You didn't have a zillion penalties. Again, it looked good. It was a good product. It was that was probably one of all the losses, that was probably the one I enjoyed the most, because I found myself in the third period going, this is a hell of a hockey game. Like, this is a great time. Like, I'm thoroughly enjoying watching this product. It wasn't bad. It was like, somebody's going to have to lose this. And it just goes to prove how close those teams were when you go to a shootout, right?
And it took Z played great in that game. It's one game. Funk over.
Yes.
He played great. I do. And actually, if you go back to his 2 starts ago against Providence, he let in that first shot, bad, rough first period. From that second period on, his last 5 periods, he's been locked in my opinion. So Funk over. Welcome back, Z. Glad to have you. We're going to need you. But it took a spectacular Brandon Bussey to get to that shootout. I think in the 3-on-3 period, Springfield, there were the back and forths like every 3-and-3, every overtime period will have. But I mean, Z made one big save in overtime, and Bussy, I think, made like 3 or 4. And then he was lights out.
4-4. But that save Zarenko made was massive. That was
huge.
Yep.
But the saves that Bussy had to make, like he wasn't just kind of square on the shot and just eating the shot. Like he had to sprawl, if I remember correctly, had to sprawl to make at least 3 of those saves.
Mm-hmm.
So, it almost was like Providence kind of stole. That was my kind of take on it. It was entertaining. It was a very entertaining game, a fun game to watch. The fan in me was like, because again, I feel like Providence kind of stole the second point. But that dem to breaks, and it was a fun game. But Z's back. That was my big takeaway from that game. You're down 2 goals, you battle back, you get 2 quick ones. My other takeaway from that Providence game, and again, it was something that was brought up in the fan rant. I wasn't there, full disclosure, so I don't like complaining about the energy level when I'm not a part of it. It seemed, as from a sellout crowd and hometown heroes, a little quiet.
It was.
Now, to be fair though, I do think, as a fan, sometimes it's a long game. You need stuff to cheer about, and just good, entertaining hockey back and forth, good neutral zone play on both teams. You're not really, that's not getting you going. And unless somebody in your section is going to break out a "Let's go T-Birds" chant, it's hard. Where's that energy coming from? So I will say, Kessel, since he's been up, I think he's been playing fantastic. He's been playing great. Since Tucker went up, McGing has had a few big body checks in open ice, but like those moments that get the crowd going, other than a goal, has been hard to come by, in my opinion.
Well, and even a guy like Sam can deck anyone at any time, but I'm watching him and he's more focused on playing hockey.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. He's playing smart. He's not getting dumb penalties. He had one on in the Providence game that I thought was kind of questionable. I think they called it interference, and the puck was pretty much there. It was borderline.
I didn't like
call.
that call. I remember that one. Yeah.
But you're right. I'm not seeing, the big hits, the days of Bobby Farnham going in. And again, Bobby was great because he wouldn't even if he didn't hit the guy good, he would like follow through the stick on the glass. So it sounded like a big hit, which sometimes that's all people need. But you would know maybe better than I, because I haven't been a fan at a hockey game in a decade. Yeah. Sometimes energy is misconstrued for people like not being involved in the game. And I don't get the impression that Thunderbirds fans are like on their phones or like chatty Cathy. No. I feel like everybody's quiet because they're watching the game.
They're watching the game. And that's what I mean.
So like, I don't necessarily say, well, nobody's into it. People are into it. They're just watching the game, not chanting every 3 seconds. So maybe that's a part of it too.
And that you say that much more eloquently than I did. That's my point, is I don't think we're not focused on the game. I just think that moment, unless there's somebody in your section starting those chants, or it's kids. I love kids take over games because it's a sellout crowd and half of them are kids and they're just yelling and screaming, get loud. As an adult, like we're huge fans. I'm not, the noise meter, I got to make it go up, like,
right.
So I'm watching the game, and unless there are those big hit moments, you're getting loud after a goal, there isn't that big boom of energy. And to your point about with Sam, I almost think, even if it's a clean hit, his reputation will precede him, right? And you see a big hit in open ice from Sam Bitten, and the arm's going to go up.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but
used to happen to Bobby Farnham all the time too. That poor guy could never catch a break. Yep.
So I commend. I love the way he's playing. He's playing smart hockey. He's playing organized hockey. I'll be curious to see now, as there's a little bit more flexibility in lines, what that does for his playing time, I hope it doesn't go to, one game every 2 weeks. I think he has earned and deserves more playing time than that. But, if you get a night off here and there, does that change what his role can be? Right now, or up until this weekend, you couldn't afford Sam busting up a hand in a fight, and I think he's really been smart picking his moments. And now, I don't know, does that change? Maybe, now that you have a little bit more freedom with the lines and can afford to rest guys a little bit more. But, that's a coach's decision.
Right. And like you're saying, it's now you have the luxury of what do they bring to the table, right? And you mentioned the 4 centers you got. It's like, okay, well, if you don't need Drew Callen in the lineup for faceoffs, and again, I'm fine with all these guys, but like, who brings that thing that your team needs on the 4th line?
Mm-hmm.
If you're comparing, say, Drew Callen, Laffy, or Sam, and you got to sit one of them, right? Or Tanner Dickinson, right? You got to sit one of these guys. Who is the, what brings that little extra something? Is it Laffy's goal scoring? Is it Callen's faceoffs? Is it Sam's physicality? That's where I think a guy like Sam's going to benefit from the way that this roster structure is, because guess what? You kind of could use a 6'3" banger on your 4th line more so than you could use maybe a Tanner Dickinson or a Callen or a Laferriere. So I think that he's working on solidifying himself in the lineup, which is smart. I assume he's looking around going, oh boy, like they got to make some moves here, and I got to do what I got to stay out of the penalty box. I got to play smart. If I can chip in offensively, great, and I got to stick up for my teammates, and I think that's what he provides.
Let's also not underestimate the importance of now practice. And I want to be careful how I word this, because I don't get the impression that anyone has been taking it easy or slacking. But I think, to your point, they all know now, if I do have a bad game in the penalty box, if I spend half a period in the penalty box, I'm not playing next week. If I'm not putting forth a good effort in practice, I'm not playing. And coach has said that your playing time will be dictated by how you practice. He's not afraid to spark things up with goaltending, right? He's now made a move where Colton Ellis is our guy. He's earned it. He's deserved it. So now, as players, as you get these guys healthy and they're available to play, I can't help but think now there's more healthy competition at a practice, which any athlete at any level will tell you that makes your games that much more easy. It makes the games more enjoyable as a player too, to know I've earned this. And I think that's all positive. That's all good stuff for the Thunderbirds moving forward.
Absolutely. And now we get to actually see what kind of a coaching staff you have here. Because like when you're forced to play what you have, then you play what you have, right?
Sure.
Now you have to actually coach, right? You're in, you're out. You're in Friday, but you're out Saturday because of who we're playing. Exactly. So now we're going to see a lot more from the coaching staff in terms of what their mindset is, what their game planning is. And I think that's going to be really interesting to follow and sort of see how that all shakes out. So
agree.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna, if we're moving on to Sunday.
Well, I was going to pay the bills and then we're going to move on to Sunday.
All right, let's do that.
All right, cool. So we do want to pay the bills and let you know that this episode of the SRG podcast proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing, Tower Square in downtown Springfield, and their new location in Amherst, your go-to pregame spot for Thunderbirds game. I'm not saying this because you can get away with this, you people. I can, because I'm just that special, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. But parking, I think it was Saturday, was a mess. And I parked in Tower Square. I was like, well, let me try it. I went down to White Lion. I'm like, guys, I'm the announcer. I don't have a ticket. I'm not going to sit at the bar and have a beer. Can you validate my parking? And they were like, yep, absolutely. Here you go. And they validated it for me anyway, even though I wasn't a paying customer. So thank you to the people at White Lion Brewing. If you're trying to do that on like a Tuesday afternoon when there's no game, I wouldn't recommend it. I hope they tell you to pound the sand. Let's not take advantage of it.
Get a beer. They're good. Get a beer.
But yes, get a beer, hang out. They are excellent people over there. They're super nice. And again, the food is great too. The nachos, the Seuss mac and cheese, the Hall of Fame wings are all outstanding. Everything is tastes so fresh there, which I love. So, again, support our friends at White Lion Brewing in Amherst and in downtown Springfield, the proud local sponsor of the SRG podcast, by our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street, another great family-owned and operated business, and just looking to entertain and keep people happy, make people happy with arcade machines, darts, pinball. They got some new pinball machines in there. They're doing dart leagues. So bring the kids. They'll have a good time, and you can hang out and have some delicious draft beers, cans, bottles. They kind of have it all. So definitely check out our friends at Brewcade. Follow them on social media as well. If you follow us on Facebook, where we post our podcast links, we do tag our sponsors in there. So if you're looking to learn more about Brewcade, go right to our page, and we got a little link there. Just click on it, and they'll take you right to their page. You can learn more about them. And by our friends at Landscaping That Fits, 413-847-0338. Rob is going to be a busy man in about a month and a half, 2 months. And we want him to be busy with you on your lawn, your property, whatever it is that you need. You need aeration. You still need fall cleanup. You need spring cleanup. I'm going to be using him for all my fertilizing needs, starting in spring all the way to like November. He's going to take care of me. He can do the same for you. Don't go to the store and buy a $70 bag of stuff and then you pour it in your thing, and you're probably doing it wrong anyway, because we don't know what we're doing. Let Rob at Landscaping That Fits do that for you. 413-847-0338. Rob's a great guy, season ticket holder, huge Thunderbirds fan. He did get back to me too. I wonder if I can pull this up real quick, because I mentioned he got some jerseys in the raffle. And I said, I think he got some pretty good jerseys. He got Luff and Kessel.
There you go.
Those are pretty good jerseys.
Those are good ones.
So good for you, Rob.
Yeah.
And again, if you call up Rob at Landscaping That Fits, make sure you let him know that the guys from SRG sent you. So yeah, I don't want to steal your thunder, Matt, but I just wanted to lead off with the game on Sunday. And this is the first year my kids are in the kids club. They had a blast. They were on the ice. They got to pick up all the pucks from the Chuck-a-Puck. The team is they're just so kind to me by letting me. There was no third period kids club except for my son, who actually got to be in with me and did all the announcing, and I was a puddle in there listening to this kid. I don't know if you heard, like, he did like the end of the game announcement.
He did. Yeah, he did good.
Kevin said, Luca, back to you. And he just crushed it. And he's 7 years old. And I was just so freaking proud of that kid. So I want to give a big thank you to Keith, and obviously Nate and Frank and John Jones and Lorenzo and all those people down there that are just so nice and kind of let me do things that the Bruins sure as hell wouldn't have let me do while I was working for them, for darn sure. So, this is just a special team. It's a special group of people behind the scenes, and they really do treat their employees like me as best as they can. And I'm so thankful and grateful to everybody for letting me do that.
Well, and you're spot on. And I will say, like, you have your moment as an employee of the team, and here's me feeling the same way, just as a dad,
as a paying customer.
As right. And friend of the show, Trini King, even one of her questions was, hey, how come they didn't do this when they were the Falcons? I missed out. I wish I could have done this as a kid. And I'm not knocking anyone from the Falcons, right? That's not the point, but I just think it goes to show you the mentality, the understanding of what they have with the front office, Nate, all the way down here at the Thunderbirds. And for the first time, I want to personally thank you for letting Jake in there. Well, I don't know. I mean, you don't pick who you do, but
no, I don't pick. But I was pumped when I saw your son was there. I was like, yes.
You and Ryan, I know he listens to the show, and my other son, Tyler, was up with Ryan as a junior broadcaster. And it's not just, at least my two kids, they came back, and it's now an understanding of what you do for your job, right? Your profession. And it's insight that they never will have other than this kids club, kids takeover. So what this organization does, not only does it give me, a family of 4, an opportunity every year to create many memories with my kids that will last my whole life, and I hope for my kids as well, but you're giving these kids insight into sports management, into marketing, into broadcasting, journalism, social media. Forgive my ignorance of what.
Social media managing, and
right, like all of that, game operations, work in the school store, the team shop, right? all of these things now, my kids are like, Dad, did you know that this guy sits right next to Ryan when he's talking? He goes, I remember that guy. I think his name is Luke. He was one of your first interviews. He was on there too. And I could, on the headset, and he's talking to all these other guys. I never knew that was going on during a game. And that, I mean this to all front office staff, everybody from the Thunderbirds who listens, thank you, because you give children in a side of a sport, of a game, potential career opportunities that I could never do. I could not explain to my kid what it's like to be a PA announcer, a broadcaster, a games operator. Like, I couldn't. And you guys were able to do that for my kids and hundreds of other kids Sunday afternoon. So thank you. And even Nate taking time out of his pregame goings on to sign 100 contracts of 8 to 12-year-olds and take pictures with these kids. It's just a fantastic afternoon. Every year it's the highlight of my kids, hockey season, and it'll be sad when they age out of it, but it's something I anticipate. I think I got 2 more years for Tyler, 3 for Jake, and I'd be a fool not to take advantage of it each and every year.
Yeah, it's funny for me because like I love the job and I love what I do. And there are nights where I'm just like, oh man, it's like I'm cold. I've had a long week. I got to go now. I got to drive down to Springfield, blah, blah, blah. And this refreshes it for me.
Sure.
Because you get these kids down here and they're just like, this is awesome. You get to sit here. Oh, look at this. Look. And they're things that I just, mentally kind of take advantage of what I get to do. It sort of humbles and brings it back and say, dude, you're like, I got a job that freaking 32 other people on the planet have. Like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? So,
this does remind me. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Jake wanted me to ask you, because he forgot to ask you, who pushes the goal horn? We know the guy controls the light. Is it the same guy who does the light also has the horn?
It's Luke.
Okay.
So Luke upstairs does pretty much everything. And that's, it's funny because we talked about the kids seeing what we do. I was joking with Luke. I said, we should have one of these nights with a bunch of grown adults. All these people who complain the music's too loud. I don't like the jumbotron doesn't look good. Why does this announcer sound like this? How come the team store there's such a long line? Well, why don't you come on this side of the counter? You know what I mean? And see what it's like. See how how hard it is to get on the ice and in a minute and a half on skates, shovel the whole thing like it's their damn driveway. That's not easy, guys.
I love that idea. I want to do that as a teacher. I want parents to have to sub. Instead of doing jury duty, you should have sub duty.
Be a substitute teacher. Love
that's
that
it.
Idea.
Every 4 years you got to put in a week at a public elementary school.
I love that idea. Holy smokes!
But no, that's not a bad idea.
Some murders happen though, I think.
Yeah. Adults take overnight.
They would need supervision. So yeah, it was great. And Olivia and Jake did awesome. And Camden, I'm blanking on the first kid's name, but he was awesome too. And again, I don't mean to keep going on, but just real quick, last thing, the off ice officials and the on ice officials, man, when they come over and they see 2 kids and they hear them, they get it. They're not just like, well, what is this circus we got today? I share the booth with Dave. It's a small booth for anybody who's ever been down there. Now I have 2 kids. Dave spent the whole game half in the booth, half in the visiting penalty box so that the kids had room. He was having them, why don't you, mark this down, mark that down. So one kid was announcing, the other kid was with Dave writing down different off-ice official stuff. So those guys embrace it. And if they're just like, what are these? Oh, Corey, we got these kids in here now. Oh, like that ruins it. And they don't. They're super nice and super helpful, kind, caring. The Chief was giving them all pucks after they were done, which was awesome. Yep. So really just building these core memories for all these kids is really what it's all about. And it was a home run. There was one thing that I thought was funny that I thought we should bring up going back to, I think it was the Providence game, the first goal, Pekka from Luff and Kessel. That was as we're calling it, the Matt trick.
Yeah, I like it.
With Matt Baker, Matt Pekka, Matt Luff, Matt Kessel. We were joking. Everyone should, it should be a Matt trick and everyone in attendance should get a free yoga mat.
I think that could be the next year's bobblehead.
The Matt trick?
The Matt trick.
I love that.
And you got your 3 mats bobbling away with standing on a welcome mat saying, "Let's go T-Birds." There's your bobblehead for next year.
I love
You heard
that.
it here first,
I love
folks.
that. So yeah, we wanted to sneak that in too. But
I like it. Yeah.
yes, as we go to the Hartford game, again, another strong first period, pretty much right out the gates with that goal from Alexandrov. And again, I have to admit, I didn't watch nearly as much of the game as I would have liked to. But I think the biggest takeaway that I had, and we were actually texting back and forth, was we've been talking about on the show, timely power play goals. The numbers are numbers. When you need one at a particular time in the game, are you getting it? And who else to get it but Matthew Pekka, third period tie game. He gets the power play goal, 3-2, ends up being the game winner. Boom. It's like, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. And that to me was the biggest play in the game, was the power play, getting goals, timely goals when they needed it the most.
You're right. And now to take a step back, even because that just reminded me, when you talk about that Providence game, it's not Z, it's your power play, right? Where you had 5-on-3 opportunities, granted not for a full 2 minutes. 5-on-3s rarely are. If your power play's cooking, you need more than 5 seconds? No, on a 5-on-3. So the one game you had a timely power play against Lehigh Valley to go up 2-1 after the first. You get a timely power play in Hartford, the game winner. The game you could have had a timely power play goal, which is one of them, was the game you lost. So you don't need to be clicking at an 80% clip here on the power play. But to your point, and I'm going to be paying attention to this for the remainder of the year, because those power play, the timely ones, right? Like, guys, we need it. Dig deep. And I give Connor Walchuk credit. He took a timeout to set things up.
Yes, he did.
He felt it too.
Timeout.
He knows it. Great timeout. It didn't work. Timeout. Now you're controlling the puck. But it just, I don't know. It was one of those games. Brandon Bussey bailed him out, and we know this, right? Like, unlike any other sport, a hot goaltender in hockey, you can ride it all as far as they'll take you, right? So, I think Providence kind of rode Bussey to the end there in that victory, but that was the missing element of that Providence game. You got that in Hartford. So
it's amazing, Bruins fans, that you need a hot goaltender, not an expensive one. I wonder if that was a good idea to lock a guy up for 8 years for $8 million, Bruins fans. I wonder if that was a good idea, because it wasn't.
Ooh,
but anyway,
bitter?
Yeah, well, there's another one. And we are going to get into St. Louis, because we do have some St. Louis news too that dropped out this morning. So definitely remind me of that. But yeah, I think this was another kind of game here against Hartford where you're up 2-0. You get it tied 2-2. Not really the best second period, but you know what? You kept your foot down. I never felt like Hartford was sniffing the game.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? I never thought that, the T-Birds are starting to lose it a little bit here, and here comes Hartford. I never really got that feeling. I thought that the game-winning goal for Springfield was inevitable, and boom, there it was.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I will say, too, for anybody who missed it, I know there's been a lot of chatter about it, but Hartford certainly exhausted coming into that one after, 180 penalty minutes?
Oh,
in
crazy.
The game the night before, the goalie fights, that was just absolute chaos and madness. It's funny, I was talking to Sonar, because Sonar was at the game, and he was saying how he actually got fined by the league because the fight happened at the end of the second period. His job, as the period ends, is to skate on the ice and bang the drum at center ice. Well, the period ended. There's like 4 fights going on. He just opened the door, skated out to center ice, and started banging on the drum. And of course, now the crowd was into it. Now he's banging the drum at center ice, and now the place goes absolutely bananas. He said it was the most surreal moment he's ever had as Sonar.
I will say Sonar is a fun mascot. He really does a nice job. I'm from Connecticut, and so I do. Don't throw things at me when you see him in the Thunderdome, but I do with my parents. We take the boys to, a Wolfpack game. Once a year, I go with my parents, and that's where I grew up. Sonar is a fun mascot. He does a nice job, and he did a really nice job Sunday egging the fans on, which again, adding energy to the Thunderdome. Like, he was there for Boomer's birthday, and there was a little section, I think it was section 3, where some of the Wolfpack fans were camping out. So Sonar would spend some time over there in 3, but then he would walk around and he would get people going. He's a fun mascot. Well done, Sonar. Well done.
I thought it was great when they were doing the cleaning up the Chuck-a-Pucks. He was sitting on the mat so that all the kids were forced to throw the pucks at Sonar, which again, is, like you said, it's great.
It's fun. It's
Nothing kids love doing and throwing
Yes.
little plastic rubber pucks at the visiting mascot. So, again, I think the overall takeaway is that this team is healthy. They're playing some really good hockey. They look like they are organized. I don't know if I saw the not the shotgun power play. What's it called where they do the
slingshot?
The slingshot power play, which I just despise. I don't know if we saw much of that at all this weekend, which is good.
A little bit. There's a little bit, but
they're trying new things.
Yeah,
not just on the power play, but I think in general, and I think it's starting to pay off. I think this team's in a really nice spot, and I don't want to jinx it, but at kind of the right time. I mean, we're heading into February now, and you're getting healthy, and
this is when we see it all the time. This is when teams could make a push. This was Hartford 2 years ago. They were at the bottom of the Atlantic Division all year long. It was around this time they get hot and they ride it all the way against Hershey and lose in the conference finals against Hershey. So this is not saying that is the future of this team, but
could be.
It could be. We've talked about it. Things are there that can marinate, and as they get healthier and figure things out, and if they ride a hot goalie and a few hot lines, I think that's one thing too that can be. I don't think anyone is playing bad hockey right now where I'm like, oh man, he needs a day off. But you've got Dvorsky, he's been a little cold. Kaskamaki's been a little cold. So you're getting points from up and down the roster. Line 1, whether it's line 4, line 2, line 3, you're just getting everyone contributing as a team. You're not looking for one Adam Gaudette to score 3 goals in a night to keep you in it. At any moment, any line right now can put a goal in, and I think that's what you want. Keeping the other team, uneasy on defense, their matchups, and that's how you dictate a hockey game.
And really, Matt Luff is a good example of that because he cooled down for a little bit,
cold.
and now I know he had he had a goal and 2 assists. One night he had at least where is he? Matt Luff. He had an assist against Hartford. So I know for a fact he had at least 4 points in those last 2 games.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking for a guy like that. And when he is. Yeah, and he had a goal against Lehigh Valley. So
Kessel had a great weekend. Oh man,
Kessel was awesome.
Yep.
I know he a lot of fans pick on him, but I thought that he was really good. So
he played great this weekend. He
really did.
He did.
Real quick, let's just sort of touch on this and get it out of the way. Today, the Blues trade Scott Perunovich to the Islanders for a 5th round pick. I'm disappointed it didn't work out here. I'd love to see more than a 5th round pick, but I think that's what happens when you dirty up a prospect. I mean, he was shiny and you just kind of buried him. I'm just looking at they did, and I'm looking at St. Louis. It's like $6.5 million for Parayko, $6.5 million for Justin Falk, $6.5 million for Torrey Krug, $6.5 million for Cam Fowler. Broberg was a good move. Nick Leddy, $4 million. Ryan Suter. Why are you bringing in 47-year-old Ryan Suter rather than play the kid? Like, I don't understand that aspect of it. And it's unfortunate. It's hard not to look at the fact that he's small. And for a team that already has 5'9" Torrey Krug, and I know he's out for the season, but to bring in another 5'10", 5'11" defenseman and I don't know, just bury him, like you said, is just it's unfortunate. And I think he's got all the skills. I wish him all the best on the island. I don't think he'll be down with Bridgeport because I think he's good. And I think the Islanders are going to use him accordingly. So sometimes these young guys, they just need a fresh start. Of all the trades, you traded the cheapest guy, which I don't understand. But
I wonder if this was more of the player than the team. If you're Scotty P, you want to play. Put me somewhere where I could play. Thanks, but no thanks. So I wonder if there was that element to it where get something for me. I need to play hockey. I'm with you. I text you. I hope we don't have to see him in Bridgeport because I don't want to have to face him. I do agree with you. I think he's a good defenseman. But I think he would have to clear waivers.
Yes, I believe he would.
And especially after being traded, I think that adds a little bit more of like a protection there, where he at least would have to stay with the big Islanders for a little while before he could be brought down to clear waivers.
And you had to know something was going to happen when they traded for Cam Fowler, recently. And so, you have Tyler Tucker and Perunovich not dressed pretty much on a nightly basis. So it's like, okay, well, we got to do something here. So it's unfortunate, but Scotty, we wish you all the best on Long Island for sure. Well, I guess is it fan rant time?
Let's do this with fan rants, because I do want to break down. We have two big games against the Wild, which I'm sure most of our listeners are experts on the Wild, but I'm not. So I spent a little bit of time and highlighted a few players that we can look for. So I want to spend some time on that. So let's do this with our fan rants. We had not a lot, but a few regarding some rules of the game, of things that had happened. So let's address those fan rants. And then anyone else, thank you all for commenting. We love the back and forth with some of these fan rants. But we encourage you all listeners, go to our Facebook page is where most of the comments are. Take a look at them, comment, and continue the conversation that way. Our buddy of the show, Al Arment, he was questioning.
So glad you brought this up, Al. Go ahead.
He was basically, and among others, also questioned Louis Domingue's move on Sunday. When he was getting pulled, there was a stick on the ice, and he deliberately pushed it into the crease on his way out. From my vantage point, I'm on the other side of the ice, section 1. I thought I saw him do it twice, go for the stick twice. So clearly it was intentional. Once he left and got off the ice, an official skated by, picked it up, did not assess any penalty. So my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong here, and add whatever else it could have been I don't know if it's a delay of game or misconduct, but I do believe it could have been a 2-minute minor assessed to the team. Had Springfield shot the puck clearly hit the stick, which prevented it from going in, the referees on ice could have called it a goal and allowed it to stand. That's my interpretation of it. The rest chose to pick the stick up and play on.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the count, counting it as a goal, but 1,000% it's a penalty. I saw this happen in real time. I was Dave. We just talked about Dave next to me. He's a ref, an on ice ref in his free time. This is his day job. He said, "Yep, that's absolutely a penalty." Because I was like, "You can't just can a goalie line up his stick on the posts and then bolt out of there?" I was like, "That doesn't sound." He said, "Nope, you can't. It's a penalty." And Louis was here in Springfield. Louis is a really nice guy. He's a good dude. I feel like the refs cut him a break there. Mm-hmm. After that, and the whistle blew, he had his helmet off and he was smiling and chatting to the ref. So my guess is the ref sort of, gave him what for, and he was just kind of like goofing around about it. But yes, no, you were not allowed to do that. Yes, it should have been a penalty. And that's sort of as far as I know. But no, that Al, thank you for bringing that up, because I saw that in real time, asked an actual referee about it in real time, and they said, no, that is not allowed. Now, maybe it's the kind of thing where you got to give a warning first.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's where you got to warn the goaltender first before you call it a penalty. But delay a game, unsportsmanlike, should have been one of those, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And again, from my vantage point, it looked like he kind of reached at it twice. He intentionally deliberately.
So he did it once. And then was going to leave the ice, but the Thunderbirds had the puck. So as the Thunderbirds was coming up the ice, he actually moved it so he could play goalie.
Yeah.
And then once the puck left the zone, he said, "Oh yeah, let me go get that stick and put it back where." Yeah. And then he got off, which again is shady, but I think he was doing it in jest with a smile. So
sure,
all's well that ends well.
Vin Carroll, another friend of the show, he wanted to know. Let me pull it up here. Oh, yeah, Here you go. So why some players will be in the warm-up and then not on the bench for the game? Is it something injury-related? He's just surprised to see some guys in the warm-up, but then they do not play in the game. They're a healthy scratch. What's going on? I learned this from you, actually, Steve. And again, add any bit that I'm missing here. Teams are allowed 2 extra warm-up skaters.
Correct.
They once warm-ups is over, they must declare who those 2 healthy scratches are. Most of the time, teams will already kind of have an understanding of to who their 2 extra skaters are. But in the event of a warm-up injury, sickness, something happens, those 2 extra skaters are allowed to warm up on ice, but then are healthy scratches once the game starts.
Correct. Yeah. And this can be for a variety of reasons. Maybe you have a guy coming back from injury who's not ready to play yet, but you want to get him back into the routine. Maybe you have a guy who's coming back from injury and he's 50-50. You don't know if he's going to go. So you throw him out there, but then you throw out a backup guy too. Maybe some guys are just like, I got coach, I want to throw on the pads and I want to go skate around and shoot at the net. Because I haven't played in a week, right? Or something like that. So there's a variety of reasons as to why they do it, but it is allowed. And one of the things that the off-ice guys do next to me during warmups is they have their roster and they literally mark every single player that's on the ice and they keep track of who was out for warmups but not dressed. I have the scratches way before warmups even start, so I know who's out there but is not going to play. So there is a system to it, but it does, allow teams to just have a couple extra guys just in case, again, somebody gets dinged in the face with a puck during warmups or something like that.
Trini King.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good one. I had that one, I think, a year or 2 ago, and you were able to help me out with that. Trini King wants to know, or her dad wants to know the difference between boarding and roughing, how they take place and how they're called. This might be a better question where Casey Terreri can give you more of the insight. It's my understanding, though, boarding is based if there is already a player with their back to you, to the ice, already up on the boards, engaged with the puck, you cannot sort of fly in and just flatten them into the boards. That is boarding. Roughing is just what it sounds. Anywhere on the ice. Hunter Skinner got called for roughing late in that 3rd period on Sunday for dumping one of the Wolfpack players. Roughing can kind of happen anywhere. Boarding is a roughing call, but for it to be boarding, it all depends on that player you're hitting, their position, their engagement with the puck, how they're standing. If their back is to you, they cannot see you. That is an illegal hit. And boarding can usually lead to a more suspension, penalty, fine, misconduct even. They could be a little bit more of a dangerous play.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what play he's talking about too, because McEachern, it was McEachern, I believe, on Saturday night who he had the puck along the boards. He looked up, saw that somebody was coming at him, purposely turned his back to that player and stepped away from the boards and then got buried. And then was like, well, where's the call? Where's the call? Where's the call? And I actually heard the ref say to him, you turned your back right as he was coming and you weren't close enough to the boards. Mm-hmm. So if you put yourself in that vulnerable position on purpose, you're probably not going to get the call. So that was, and I saw him, I was like, as soon as he turned his back and then got decked, I was like, boy, he really set himself up to get hit there. You know what I mean? And the ref literally said to him, nope, you turned your back as he was coming and you were far enough away from the boards where you didn't go into him, basically. Yep. So yeah, that's that.
Running a little bit late on time. I don't think we had in mind a late spot. I do want to just mention one more fan rant, and this is Rachel Bowler. She's heading down to Iowa this weekend. She's heading down on Thursday to support the boys. Those of you know, her late husband, Paul, was a big fan of the show and a huge fan of the T-Birds. So I just want to share my deepest condolences and sympathies to you, Rachel. I love the fact that you're going in memory of Paul, and I wish you nothing but what is probably going to be a difficult, tough time. I hope you're able to enjoy it, and I admire you a lot. I don't know you, but just the fact you're doing this in his memory, and well done, and I hope you can enjoy this trip, and the Thunderbirds can provide something to cheer for you.
Totally. And I'm going to try to get to the calling hours are Wednesday. I'm going to try to get there. Rachel, I'm going to do my best. Well said, Matt. The only thing I wanted to add is Iowa, sneaky cool state.
Yeah. Never been.
It's I had to go out there for a family thing. I flew into Omaha, Nebraska, which also sneaky cool city. It's like a bigger Albany. Like there's just stuff to do. There's bars on every corner. Iowa, as you can imagine, bone straight roads, cornfields on every side. But they make a lot of money off of what they grow and sell. So like it's clean. Like every town, it's not like it's a big town, but they're all clean. They have restaurants, they have stuff to do. They have to entertain themselves. So there's a lot of stuff to do. It's not like how the Midwest is maybe pictured in these movies where it's like dingy and dirty and dark and, everybody's like ripping butts at the bar and stuff like that. It's really not. The people are super friendly. The restaurant, the food's really good. So enjoy yourself, Rachel. Iowa's a sneaky cool state, and Omaha's Nebraska sneaky cool city if you're flying in and out of there. So
cool.
Have fun.
Absolutely. And again, there were a lot more fan rants. I take a look on them on our Facebook page and
we're already over an hour. How'd that happen?
But yeah, it's just and all right. So the Wild, right? We 2 games. The Wild. I don't know when the last time the Thunderbirds have played the Wild, if they ever have. I don't even know. Don't know much about this team, but I did want to highlight a few of their.
I know that
their top prospects, and just highlight some names that we can look for. Again, I don't know much about them. These are, again, because of the position where they are in the standings. I do think these are still big games, even though you're not trying to beat the team, you're trying to jump over. But we need points here. So I think their biggest kind of prospect, Liam Ogren, is a Swede. He was their number 1 draft pick back in 2022, 19 overall. I think he's 3rd in the team in points right now. Hunter Height, their 2nd round pick, 47 overall, is their other young top prospect. Again, and just another guy to keep in mind. They're the team's leading point scorer with 20 assists. I believe something like 6 goals. My AHL app isn't opening up right now, but is Travis Boyd. He's been an up and down NHLer for most of his career, but he's been pretty solid with Iowa Wild, not up in Minnesota this year. Another solid AHLer, veteran, Brendan Gaunce.
Yeah.
Gaunce. So those are sort of their 2 big veteran type of players. They're Matthew Pekka, Mackenzie McEachern kind of guys.
Yep.
One thing I did note, though, they are both top point scorers for the team. Their plus minus is -11, -15.
Oof.
-11 for Travis, -15 for Brendan Gaunce. So defense, goaltending is clearly an issue for this team. When I took a look deep into, I kind of, digging through who their goalies are, you've got their number 1 goalie, I think, Samuel.
Go ahead, try it.
Lavage.
I don't know. I don't have to say it. I'm gonna go with Lavic. I feel like
Lavic?
The J's turned to CKs at the end, but anyway, yeah.
From Slovakia, countryman to Dvorsky, 17 games played, 23 years old, a 2.98 goals against, a .897 save percentage. Their other goaltender, and probably their more, I think he was their number 1 overall pick in 2021, Jesper Wallstead, 22 years old, 14 games played. My notes are all over the place here. A .373 goals against and an .874 save percentage. So those are their 2 goalies. I would imagine one night you see Jesper, one night we'll see Sam. I want to quickly, Steve, if you don't mind, I want to compare them. I took a look, looking at their numbers. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let me take a deep dive into see how to compare Z and Ellis, where they stand. I would imagine both goalies for Springfield we'll see this weekend as well. Z, let's do Z real quick. 23 years old, 17 games played, a 3.62 goals against, an 8.83 save percentage. Ellis, 24 years old, 23 games played, a 2.58 goals against, and a 9.23 save percentage. I went a little deeper. Bear with me. Numbers aren't my strong suit, but I was having fun with this. Let's look at the Wild. Because again, I'm looking at like the Wild goaltender numbers and Z's, and they're comparable. And I'm doing this to Z is back, and I know it was a rut, and it fan rants, and I know people are upset with Z, but take a step back, and when you look at the numbers, Z in his 17 games played has made 444 saves, given up 59 goals. That's a total of 503 shots, facing 30 shots a game. Ellis, 692 saves, 58 goals against, for a total of 750 shots. Ellis is facing an average of 33 shots a game. Now compare this to the Wild. Samuel Lavak, 17 games played, 399 saves, 46 goals against, 445 shots total. So Sam and Z have played the same amount of games. Sam has faced an average of 26 shots a game. That matters. So I'm just doing this to pump the brakes and calm everybody down. When we're looking at Z, we're spoiled here in Springfield with goaltending and Lindgren and Maltembo and Hofer, Ellis.
Did you see the save Lindgren made the other night?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, diving back. That was fantastic. Yes. Yeah, fantastic. Jesper Wallstead, their number 20 pick overall in 2021 for the Minnesota Wild. 22 years old, 14 games played. Numbers are numbers. He faces an average of 28 shots a game. So of all these goalies, and I'm curious, I might start to do this a little bit more across the league just to see where we are in Springfield. We put our goaltenders in a tough spot. Mm-hmm. You have Z facing an average of 30 shots a game. Ellis is 33, and you have both of these goalies 26 and 28. Now, I know that might be like, oh, that's a 4-shot a game difference. Well, that's a goal.
Yeah,
that can be a goal. So when you look at these numbers, and Z is facing 4 shots more a game and still has a comparable, very comparable save percentage to their number 1 goalie, folks, things could be a lot worse. And that's my point. Of all those numbers, Z's back. His last 5 periods, he's been great. And if he's our number 2, our solidified number 2 behind Ellis, who's, you want to talk about an all-star snub? I bet if he had more games played at the beginning of the year, he's an all-star. I mean, those are all-star numbers.
They sure are.
33 shots a game, a 2.58 goals against, and a 9.23 save percentage. That's AHL All-Star. So
I agree.
You have an AHL All-Star as your number 1, and you have your number 2, solid number 2. Other teams would beg to have a Z. So again, we're spoiled with what we have, and be grateful. And I'm personally glad to have Z back.
Totally. No, and I'm glad they gave him the time he needed. I mean, he clearly needed a little bit of something, whatever they did, get the juju back. But I also think that the team, I think over the last, maybe 2-3 weeks, the team hasn't been playing very well. Mm-hmm. So, if your team's not playing well, you're going to stick the goalie who's not playing well in front of him. Like, wait till the team get right, let Z get right.
Yeah.
And they'll roll. And so I think you're right. I think we're in a real good spot here. So those 2 games are going to be Friday and Saturday. Friday night's game, by the way, is 8:00 local time, just so you guys know. So it's a little later. Take a nap. But I'll be tuned in. I'm sure you will be as well.
I actually, as much as the 8:00 game is Oh, you're like, oh, I got to stay up an hour later. It's good because I coach basketball Friday nights for my boys, and
there you
I'll be
go.
home by 8. So
There you
that's
go.
perfect.
Perfect. All right.
Yep.
We do want to thank our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square and in Amherst. We want to thank our friends at Brewcade on Walnut Street in Agawam and our friends at Landscaping That Fits, 413-847-0338. Thanks to them for local businesses and organizations sponsoring a local podcast that's just for you guys. And, you know, our numbers are what they are. You know, we're not getting 5 million streams per episode, believe it or not. But you know what? We're hitting the people that we want to hit. And if you're a fan of Springfield hockey, just like we are, that's what we're here for. We're here for you. So we really appreciate everybody who tunes in, listens, comments, shares, interacts with us, gets involved, says hi on the concourse.
Yeah.
I do like when people say, great job with the podcast. Keep it up. Like I like that. I love that because that means that we're not talking to ourselves, but it also means that people are listening to us. So we really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Springfield Thunderbirds, for giving hundreds of kids in our community memories and opportunities that they won't be able to experience outside of this team. So thank you, Springfield Thunderbirds. Thank you, fans, for the likes, subscriptions. Tell your friends about us if they're hockey fans as well. And like always, I don't know how to talk in an Iowa accent, but let's go T-Birds.